Hello and welcome to Season 2 of Every Little Thing Chinese. I'm Nicole. This show helps you learn practical, authentic Chinese and build the useful expressions you can actually use in real life. And you are listening to the first episode of Season 2. When we're getting ready to rent or buy a house, there are a few factors we need to think about. Today, we are going to see how to describe these factors in Chinese. And at the end, I will give a short story of a property in Chinese. I've already prepared the notes for you, including all the Chinese expressions I mentioned, along with pinyin and translations. Most importantly, I will also include the full version of the short story at the end. You can download it by the link in the description. First, let me clarify something. In the UK and some other countries, house is a specific type of property, like a terraced house or a detached house. But this kind of house is not very common in China. When it does appear, it's usually much newer and quite fancy. So in this program, when I say house, I simply mean a place you buy or rent to live in. In Chinese, we say 房子. 房子, a place to live or the rooms you live in. When you rent a place, we use this phrase 租房子. 租, the verb rent. 租房子. If you share it with roommates, that's called 合租. 合租, together rent. 合, together. And your roommates are 室友, room friend. 室友. If you're renting the entire place by yourself, 整租. 整租. When you buy a place, that's also a phrase. 买房子. 买房子. Buy house. 租房子. Rent a house. 买房子. Buy a house. Okay, now let's talk about the elements we care about when 租房和买房. First, the location. 位置. 位置. Then the price. 价格. 价格. If you 租房, then that would be 租金. 租金. And if you 买房, then this price will be 房价. 房价. After that, we start comparing the layout. 格局. 格局. Basically, we will be looking at the floor plans. 户型图. 户型图. Alright, let's dive in a bit deeper about the layout and the location of a house. 位置和格局. 位置. We usually think about whether the place is convenient for getting to work or school. 方便上班或者上学. 方便上班或者上学. Whether it's close to a metro station. 离地铁站近. Or some people might care more about whether it's in the city center. 市中心. 市中心. Because they care about how easy it is to go to gigs, bars, or the high street, which is convenient for them to meet up with friends. Some people prefer to buy property in the old town. 老城区. 老城区. On the contrary, others prefer new districts. 新城区. 新城区. The second point, 格局, is the most important one. 户型和格局. This includes a few things. How many rooms there are, which in Chinese is usually expressed as number, 室, number, 厅, number, 位. Example, 一室一厅一卫. 一室, 室 means bedroom, 卧室 So 一室 means one bedroom. 一厅 means 客厅 the living room, and 饭厅 the dining room. 一卫 means 卫生间 bathroom. So 一室一厅一卫 means this house contains one bedroom, one living room, and one bathroom. We also have studio, known in Chinese as 开间 open room, 开间. Here I'm talking about the whole building is made up of these types of units, not a house that divided into multiple so-called studio rooms. In China, these types of property isn't that common for residential use. It's usually considered commercial, and it's particularly popular with single people or young couples who want to rent somewhere close to the city center. Once we know how many rooms a place has, we then look at the layout and the orientation. 格局和朝向 The orientation 朝向 which means where the windows facing to. Even within the same building and on the same floor, the one with the well-designed, compact layout and south-facing bedrooms can be far more expensive than a long, narrow flat with poor orientation. This is what we call 格局, the layout. We'll often say the place has a good layout, 格局好. As for orientation, rooms in China are almost always built on a north-south axis. It's very rare to see buildings set at an angle. To get the best natural light, we normally place the bedrooms, especially the main bedroom and the living room, on the south side, with south-facing windows. We describe this as facing south, 朝南, 朝南, 南 south, rather than being on the south side, 在南边 at south side, being on the south side, 在南边. For example, a room located on the south side of a building, but if its window face west, then it's considered a west-facing room. Alright, now that you know some of the factors we usually talk about when discussing houses, there's one more thing I want to briefly mention before we get into today's short story. It's something we care about, but not too much. That is, 风水. 风水. When buying or decorating a house, some people even bring in a professional 风水 consultant. But for most of us, we are far from experts in 风水. What we pay attention to is actually the feeling or vibe of the place. Sometimes, even if a flat has a great layout and lovely natural light, you just feel inexplicably uncomfortable. Or perhaps your cat or dog is always restless and unsettled in that place. In that case, we'd say the 风水 is bad in that place, or even quite spooky or haunted. Okay, I think now you grabbed all of the information and vocabulary phrases of the houses. Let's dive into today's short story. 我刚毕业的时候，在上海和朋友合租。我们在网上找了很久，然后看了好几天的房子，最后选了一个离市中心很远的老小区。那是个很小的3室2厅，我住主卧，另外2个朋友住次卧。这个房子又小又旧，格局也不太好，只有客厅是朝南的，而且离地铁站也非常远。但好在房租比较合理，生活 也很方便。楼下就是一个很大的超市，这已经是当时我们能力范围内能找到的最好的房子了。不仅如此，我后来觉得这个房子的风水特别好，因为住在这里的时候，我们都特别顺利，很快就找到了很好的工作，并且通过了试用期，工资也一直在上涨。租约到期后，我们又续租了1年。后来我们都攒了点钱，也各自恋爱了，所以租约再次到期后，我们就都搬去了更靠近各自公司的房子了。而当时我们几个也都升职了。Alright, that's all for today. In Thursday's episode, I will share a few more short stories about different types of houses. See you then!